Hi guys, it's Diana. Welcome back to another video. I'm going to be talking about my reflections from freshman year as well as things that I wish I'd known before I got to Penn that I learned, I guess, the hard way through my experience having gone through freshman year. College was so fast and things happen so much. If you don't document it, you're going to forget it. I have a daily habit of journaling every single night, and I missed a few nights here and there during Penn just because life gets really hectic, but I did write the majority of my days out. I literally just wrote what I did, who I hung out with, if I went out at night, things like that, and it just gives you something to look at. If you don't do that, literally use Be Real, which is the daily photo app. Reflect, especially at the end of your freshman year, just gives you a little bit of closure, and it also captures the things that you learned that you can do better for your next year to help set you up for success. As soon as I got home from college, I sat down and did a reflection, wrote out over 5,000 words, because there's a lot of things that I feel I learned as a freshman that are going to serve me well so I don't repeat these mistakes in my sophomore, junior, senior year. Even if you don't enjoy writing, you could literally do a voice memo. The third piece of advice is related to something that I heard from a family friend. He said, in college there are 3 S's: school, sleep, and social life, and you can only choose 2. What he meant by that was basically, in college, you only have a certain amount of time. If you want to have a social life and you want to do well in school, you have to compromise on your sleep. Or if you want to do well in school and you want to get in your sleep, you might not have a very good social life. My view on this is you can actually combine some of the S's. I decided I wanted to prioritize social life, but I didn't compromise on school because I was able to make certain activities social. I would study with friends, I would go to Starbucks. I did get in some more focused school specific time, but I was also able to socialize. There definitely are people who try to keep these things separate so they don't study with their friends, they don't really overlap their time, but I think with college, what's really awesome is you're able to be around your friends 24/7 if you want to. My advice is take advantage of that and don't just choose 2 S's. You can try and do more. Learn to say no to opportunities. When you're a student, there's millions of opportunities at your disposal. If you tried to say yes to everything, you'd be at least triple booked. And it can also lead to burnout if you're trying to say yes to everything. The world is your oyster, but I learned to be comfortable saying no to things and missing out on certain opportunities because there is an opportunity cost to saying yes to certain things. My recommendation is go in knowing what you want, and if you don't know what you want, try not to say yes to everything. For example, if you're interested in consulting, but you haven't done your research and you don't know what clubs there are, say yes to a few consulting clubs. Don't say yes to every single club that throws a fire in your face. Take advantage of being a Penn student. As I said, there are so many opportunities. Some to be aware of are free subscriptions that you can get, free Wall Street Journal, free New York Times, free license to certain apps, or just discounts. One that I recently discovered that I'm not going to gatekeep is Penn Career Services, which actually not only helps undergrad students, but helps people literally graduated trying to find a new job. They'll look over your resume, go over your cover letter. College is an adjustment. I came out of a gap year as well as graduating from high school early. So I'd been out of school almost 2 years by the time I came to school as a 20-year-old. That was such an adjustment because I had not done academic work in 2 years. My study skills were just not up to par. This also had to do with the fact that I think my public school didn't prepare me that well for the way that college is. Be aware it's an adjustment. It's okay to not be crushing it in the first few weeks of school or even past that. Not only are you adjusting academically, you're also adjusting socially because suddenly you're away from your family and you're surrounded by nobody that you know very well, and you're trying to scramble and build a support network. That's just something to be aware of and be prepared for. Don't compare yourself to other people. People come in with different levels of preparedness for college academics. As I mentioned, my high school didn't do a very good job. With college, classes were just much harder for me, specifically for computer science, which is what I was studying, where the intro classes are weeder classes that are meant to get people to drop out of it. I was struggling so much, and I saw my friends doing so well in the class. I realized don't compare yourself to them because their high schools just prepared them differently. Also, really the case for math. I saw people who were just like thriving, and that was because they literally learned the material before. We're coming in from like completely different playing fields because like I didn't even finish Calc BC because I graduated early. Just do it. My gap year, I like woke up early, wrote every day, did meditation in the morning. When I got to college, that went out the window. I kept telling myself that I would do all these daily habits once I got my together. Now that I've like sat down and reflected, that doesn't make sense because these daily habits are what would have helped me get my together. My tip is, if there are lifestyle habits that would help you be the best version of you, be more successful, have better wellness in general, mental and physical, just do it. Go to the gym, do meditation, journal every day. Socialize, socialize, socialize. What I was told going into freshman year, which informed my decision to like focus on social life, is that all freshmen at the beginning of the year are so open to socializing. Everyone is basically in the same boat where you don't really know anybody and you're just like trying to find your people and your friends. After that month, basically, people have found their friends. They're not going to be as open to meeting new people, especially at the very beginning of the year. I really recommend socializing, socializing, socializing. After that like first month or so, people still are open to making new friends because it is your freshman year. I recommend just like throughout the year, try to meet as many new people as possible. It can take the form of just like going out instead of staying in, trying to like join clubs, going through the rush process for Greek life before school even starts. Be very social on social media. Class of 24, I added a lot of people on Instagram, commented, liked their posts. When I ended up taking a gap year and joining class of 25, I didn't go and follow a lot of people. And when I got to campus, I realized people already knew each other and it was literally just through social media. So I wish I'd done that more. As a freshman, just be active on social media, even before school starts. That way, when you get to school, you just have familiar faces. You don't have to be best friends with the people that you meet, but it just gives you an automatic in. So you can be like, oh, I think I follow you on Instagram, and that's just like your little in to start a conversation to form an actual meaningful relationship. Create a Facebook account. That is like one of the forms of social media I feel like isn't used that much in my generation, but at Penn it is used for events. A lot of people just use Facebook. That's why I recommend having it, to be aware of those events. If you're against Facebook, against Meta or whatever, have a friend who has an account. Then they can inform you about events. Apply to a pre-orientation program. I did Advancing Women in Engineering, which is like a woman in engineering specific program, but there are things like Penn Quest, Penn Green. These programs like are a few days before regular move-in, and there are just so many benefits. Number one, you get to meet new people. Even if you don't end up being best friends with the people in the program, you just have familiar faces on campus, which can really just help with confidence. A pre-orientation program is a great like little trial run with socializing. Training wheels, because you get to practice meeting new people. And this prepares you well for NSO, which is New Student Orientation Week. Second, you get to move in early. It's so hectic during the normal move-in days because everybody is moving in. With a pre-orientation program, by the time the normal people are moving in, you're like already nice and comfortable and situated, and you don't have to be seen all sweaty and gross. It's just a lot less stressful. Additionally, a perk of moving in early is that you just have more opportunity to socialize. Some people have commented like, oh, like it seems like you already knew a lot of people based on how like in my first day of class video, which you can watch as well, I like literally went to like my friend's birthday. That happened because I moved in early. People that I met after I moved in were just other people in my program, but then also like international students who moved in early, first gen students who moved in early. You just get to make these connections so that when you actually have your first day of class, like you already know people. Shameless plug, check out my pen packing video if you haven't already to have a successful move-in. Third, you get to meet upperclassmen. For like the women in engineering one, like I met girls who had my major. I was able to get advice from them. For a lot of the other ones, like I know Warren has one, like you get like a mentor, and that's just really helpful. Even if you don't end up joining Greek life, it's a great way of meeting people, not just in your freshman year, but also like in the years above. You won't remember the nights in. Maybe this is biased because I am like an extrovert and I love going out and dressing up, but you don't even have to necessarily dress up and like go out on the town to go out. What I mean by that is socialize. You can have like a chill night in with friends, but just like do something with your friends. You're gonna remember that a lot more than staying in and sleeping or studying. especially like on a Friday night or like a Saturday night where it's like the weekend and you don't actually have school. As a freshman specifically, at the very least, if you're not going out with friends, like just stay in and have a chill night with people so that you're making these connections, because getting acclimated to college is a very stressful experience, and it makes it so much better if you have friends and people there to support you. And you make these friends by spending time with them. There are some really great resources like Penn Course Review, Penn Course Alert, Penn Course Plan. Take advantage of these resources when you're picking your classes. Take the professor, not the course. There are some topics that seem interesting for specifically like freshman writing seminar. However, my advice from what I learned is instead of looking at the topic and what you think might be interesting, look at the professor's ratings on Penn Course Review. Look at the difficulty of the class, how much work there's going to be, because that is what is going to define the quality of your experience. I took this course for writing STEM about the brain, and I personally am not that interested in like how the brain works. However, I had a really good time in the class because the professor had very, very high ratings on Penn Course Review, and there wasn't that much work that was required. Take lots of fun classes. For anybody, there's pros to being able to do that because you can explore topics that might be outside of your major. But specifically for engineers, I really recommend taking a fun class to balance difficulty of the engineering classes. I took LGS 100. That was like a Wharton course. It was very different in terms of course load compared to my engineering classes. Second semester, I took Fine Arts 1, 2, 3. That was like 3-hour class. But it was so nice to have that to like exercise my creativity and have a nice break from my hard engineering classes. A little tangent about the math department. Penn math sucks. If you're seeing this and you're part of the Penn math department, I'm sorry, but it is a pretty universally shared point of view from the students. The math department decided to do a flipped classroom format where they send you pre-recorded videos. It's supposed to teach you the material instead of lectures. That just did not work with my style of learning because I wasn't able to ask questions. I actually came into Penn thinking I might be a math minor. That is no longer the case. I do not want to take any more math classes than I am required to for my major. Be okay with not having a perfect GPA. This is especially relevant to people who are like STEM majors or in the engineering school, which are notoriously more difficult than some of the other schools. If you watch my stats video, coming from high school, I was like a straight A student and I was used to doing well in my class, being at the top of my class, being the top of my high school. Like I said before, computer science classes, they're known to be super hard because they want people to drop out because there's so many computer science majors. I'd never gotten anything below an A before. I had to learn to be okay with it. The average on my midterm and on my final for my computer science class was literally like a 55%. I had to be okay like getting not even a B or C on the final. And this tip is less about enabling you to be like, okay, like I can just not apply myself, because I do think I applied myself. I think it's just more like don't beat yourself up if you like don't do that well, because as I said, there's people who come in with a lot more knowledge, so they're gonna just do better in the class because they're more prepared from their previous experiences. It's okay to not have the perfect grades. Wharton is just like known for having like a much lower workload. If you go into Penn Course Review, you'll see the Wharton classes, the average ranking is a 3 or 4 on a scale of 4 in terms of quality of the professors, and then workload is like 1 or 2. Whereas for engineering, like the average difficulty is a 3 or 4, and then the average professor quality is like a 1 or 2. That's just something to know because that's gonna dictate your academic experience. I just didn't have time for extracurriculars because the classes themselves were so difficult and so time consuming, and because of like the office hours, which I would be at for like 5 hours a day, versus like Wharton kids who tend to have less workload in terms of the hours, and that just means that like the Wharton kids are able to take on a lot more extracurriculars. Don't compare yourself to others because literally the academics can dictate the rest of your time. Take advantage of the vast variety of different food options. Things like Quaker Kitchen. Lauder has a great dining hall. Hillel. These are just like much better than the traditional dining halls that are like very, very popular. I didn't discover them till like the end of the year. Take advantage of the wide range of food options. Check out the frozen section of the grocery stores that are run by Penn. Gourmet Grocers, the one in McClellan. Penn food is gonna suck. The frozen sections have some frozen meals which I've discovered are much better than the dining hall options, and you can get it with a meal slip. At the beginning of the week, I would go to Gourmet Grocers and I would buy like 3 frozen meals which I would eat throughout the week. Consider doing the dining plans with more dining dollars, because you can use it at things like Pret, Starbucks at 1920 Commons. Those places have much better food and you're using your meal plan there instead of using it on like the all-you-can-eat dining halls, which are just not great. Information is not democratized at Penn. Not really a tip, but just something to be aware of. There are people who go into Penn with connections already. How this relates to like information doesn't get democratized is people help out people that they know. There are opportunities like events, clubs, opportunities that people just not necessarily gatekeep, but they just don't share. Okay, that actually is gatekeeping. This information is not shared with everybody. If you don't have these like connections, like there are going to be people, they're just going to know a lot more information, and it's just something to be aware of. It is not a Penn specific phenomena. This is just reflective of society as a whole. And that's also like why I try to make these videos, is to sort of democratize the information just a little bit, because I didn't really have that older person who was like giving me advice, and so I'm trying to be that person for you guys. If you're somebody at Penn, I guess this video is just for entertainment purposes. Something also to be aware of is just the East Coast presence is very, very strong. Coming from the West Coast, I hadn't really had experience with like the East Coast prep culture. I don't even think that East Coasters are like the majority on campus, but in certain social circles, it's these connections like run very deep. It's just very dominant. There's not really anything you can do about it, but it's just something to be aware of. Prepare yourself for campus. There's just a lot of flex culture at Penn. My neighborhood is like fairly affluent. Penn exposed me to a whole other level of wealth. People are constantly wearing flashy brands. That's not something I really was experienced with coming from like a public high school. People call Locust Walk, which is the center of campus, a runway, which I think is valid, because if you walk down that, you are going to see at least 5 designer items worn by people that pass. People are super showy. You're going to see so many designer totes, designer jackets, especially in the winter, like Canada Goose, Moncler, designer jewelry. That's just a part of the culture of Penn and something to be aware of. This is gonna be like controversial, I think, but speaking from my personal experience, Penn is diverse if you look at the demographics. However, it is not integrated. People stick with people who are like them. There are completely isolated social spheres. People just like stick in these social circles. An example is like Greek life is very, very white dominated. There are not that many people of color. Although Penn is on paper very diverse, it is not well integrated. That's reflective of society as well, but it's something I wish I'd known. People are very set on either investment banking, consulting, or tech, because those are like the 3 career paths that make a lot of money. That is something to be aware of. Penn is very, very competitive. There is like very competitive, flashy culture, but not everybody's like that. You don't have to choose to surround yourself by people who are like super cutthroat and snaky, who feed into certain Penn stereotypes. There are very authentic people on campus, and you can just choose to surround yourself by people like that. Penn is the socializing. Something that I learned that I wish I'd known before Penn was just the extent to which people party and socialize. The party culture is really heavy. People go out Monday through Saturday. There's like constantly things happening. To make sure that you guys are taking away the most important advice, I would say socialize, socialize, socialize. That is my #1 piece of advice for people coming into Penn. College is really hard. It is a grind, especially academically. But even though it will be a grind for 3 more years, college isn't just about academics. I really think like what is important about college are like the relationships that you take out of it. Freshman year really set the bar high, but I know there's a lot more I could have done extracurricular-wise, social-wise, academic-wise. I'm really excited for what's to come. I'm excited to form new and also to strengthen relationships. I hope you enjoyed this video, learned a bit about me and also about Penn. I hope some of the mistakes I made and things I realized will be helpful to you guys in your college journey. Incoming freshmen who are watching this video, you guys are gonna be great. Feel free if you have any questions as an incoming or prospective student to DM me on Instagram. I'm, as I said, trying to democratize information about Penn, so happy to answer questions. That was the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed this very unstructured, rambling reflections of freshman year video. If you're an incoming freshman, can't wait to see you in the fall. If you're a prospective student, hopefully I'll see you in the future. In the meantime, check out my Instagram, follow along with my activities there, and I will see you guys in my next video.